Well, hello and welcome back to that thing we like to call Curlis Mania, where we talk all things pop, rock, and prog. I am very excited. Before I do anything else, I want to welcome back my good friend Bicycle Legs to the channel. Bicycle Legs, thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
Hi Tom, thanks for having me. I'm doing great, and it's always a pleasure to be on Curless Mania, and I'm looking forward to this one.
Oh, absolutely. We are both excited because we are both big fans of the artist that we are covering today. It is none other than Mr. Joe Jackson, and I'm not sure how we got on this. A lot of times with fellow YouTubers, we'll talk and it'll come up somehow that we both really love this artist or we both really love that album. And this there was a case on this one where we Joe Jackson somehow came up. Maybe it was great debuts. Maybe that's what it was. We did a great
Hmm.
debut episode, and I think Look Sharp came up. And we both were like, "Oh my God, that we got to do a Joe Jackson episode." Here we are today, and we are doing a battle today between Look Sharp, the debut, and the next record, the second album, I'm the Man, both from 1979, rapid fire releases. That's what they used to do back in the day. So before we start, I always like to ask, when was the first time you heard any music from either of these records? Do you remember?
Well, the earliest Joe Jackson I heard of any sort was actually a little later. It was 1982, and it was the song "Real Man," which was a big hit here in Australia. It wasn't anywhere else, but it was a huge hit in Australia. I think it got to like number five on the singles chart. And then listening to sort of rock radio and that sort of thing, you would hear "Is She Really Going Out with Him" a
Mhm.
lot,
Yes.
and I always loved that song. And it was probably a little later in the 80s that I started collecting Joe Jackson and buying these albums. And as you'll see, my copies of these albums are well worn. They're quite. I probably need replacements for these at some stage, but they still play fine. But the covers are looking a little worse for wear.
Yeah,
So
I have them both. I have them both on. I couldn't find my CD for I'm the Man, but I've got them both on. You know, you like an album when you have it in two different mediums.
yes.
But you're right. My Look Sharp is pretty beat up too. I got to get a new version of this. But yeah, I think the first time I heard the song Look Sharp on a mixtape from somebody had given me or someone had made, and I don't know if they'd given it to me. It was somebody else's mixtape, and I heard the song, and I was like, "What is this? I love this track. This is so great. Like, who is this?" And then I think obviously, like you to your point, is she really going out with him was on the radio as well. So I did hear that on the radio, and I thought that was great too. So once I put the two together, that those were both on the same album, I was like, oh my God, I got to find out who this is and buy the album, ASAP. Um, I just loved both of those songs. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then like you said, we'll be talking more about Joe Jackson. We're going to be doing more Joe Jackson because we can't just talk about these two records. There's a lot more to talk about. And we're going to be that's
Yeah.
spoiler alert. I'm not going to do any spoiler alerts here. But we're going to be talking about more Joe Jackson. So real quick, I'm just going to do a real fast rundown on Look Sharp. It was recorded in August of 1978, released January 29th of 1979. It was recorded at Eden Studios in London, produced by David Kirschenbaum, who I believe was the gentleman who signed them to A&M. So maybe he said, "I'm going to sign this band and I'll produce them as well." Um, and it was as I just mentioned, it was released on A&M. The singles were "Is She Really Going Out with Him," "Sunday Papers," "One More Time," and "Fools in Love." So four singles from a debut. That's pretty cool that they had four
Mm.
singles taken from the record. Just shows how strong it is. So yeah, so that's all I have. I can hand it over to Bicycle Legs now for
Yeah.
his take on the debut Look Sharp.
Well, one thing about these early Joe Jackson albums is they all tended to get off to an absolute flying start. And we'll see that both with Look Sharp and I'm the Man. I mean, it starts off with the incendiary one more time, which just, it's just a great, yeah, there's Joe on the back
Mhm.
looking sharp,
Yes,
you've got to say. He's looking sharp in that pinstripe suit
he
and
is. He
all
is.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, one more time just starts the album off so well. It's this, bitter, bitter breakup song. You know, she's breaking up with him, and he's sort of saying, tell me one more time we were never in love. Tell me one more time it was never meant to be, all this sort of thing. Tell me one more time we never had a thing in common. Um, you know, he's in disbelief about it. He's angry about it. I mean, he was considered, along with Elvis Costello and Graham Parker, to be one of the sort of angry young men of British post punk. I did a show on that topic of those three artists with Martin Popoff, our good friend, um, some time ago. And it was great to sort of compare and contrast those three artists.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just an incredible way to start an album one more time, don't you think?
Oh, it's incredible. I love One More Time. And like you said, it just the kinetic energy of this record starts right at the top. As you said, it just kicks in immediately, and you know you're in for a ride with One More Time. And I agree with you. I love the lyrics. I mean, it's interesting because like his songs were deceptively simple. Like you think the songs are simple, but and some of them kind of are, but like you can tell that he's a songwriter and that in the lyrics on this, who hasn't gone through this? Who hasn't dealt with someone where you get a breakup and it just hurts? Someone's breaking up with you and you're basically getting rejected. And it's like it's so hard to take. And it even doesn't matter what the reasons are. It still really, really hurts. And it's I think that and that anger, that sort of anger comes out. And I just love that lyric because it's like to your point, it's just perfect. Tell me one more time why you're rejecting me, why you don't want to be with me. And it's just it's everyone's felt that at some time in their life, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing about this song is it really introduces the Joe Jackson band sound, where you've got basically. I always loved how inverted their sound was because instead of having lead guitar, you have rhythm guitar and you have lead bass on these
Yes.
songs. Um, Graham Maybe, what a bass player. And he's so high up in the mix. And I
Yeah.
love his bass playing throughout this album, but you get it straight away with this album. I was going through, as I was telling you off air, I've been listening to most of the Joe Jackson catalog in the car recently. And the thing about these Joe Jackson band albums is I found that Gary Sanford, the guitar player, in all of those Joe Jackson band albums, I could count one guitar solo that he played, and it's not on either of these albums. It's on Beat Crazy.
Right.
So, he doesn't, he's not a lead guitarist, but
No.
he's a great rhythm guitarist. He's absolutely brilliant in that role. But Graham Maybe, the bass player, really comes forward in a lot of these songs, and the bass propels these songs. And I mean, you can tell how much Joe Jackson respects Graham Maybe too, because Graham Maybe's played on the majority of his albums throughout his career. You
Yes.
know, so
Yes.
just absolutely wonderful bass player.
Oh my God. I always say he's like the Chris Squire of post-punk. He's,
Mm,
he's like the new wave Chris Squire, like where it's like the bass is so, like you said, so high in the mix and so well played, so aggressive, but so great.
yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you get more of that when you get into the second song, Sunday Papers, which, I mean, Sunday Papers is one of these songs where Joe Jackson's showing his sort of wry humor because he's talking about these sort of, terrible tabloid newspapers and how they're affecting, sort of people and all that sort of thing. It's probably like, you know, the 70s version of Fox News,
Yes. Yeah.
and what that does to people and that sort of thing. The Sunday papers were the thing in the late 70s.
Hmm.
And just all these sort of nonsense stories that they would have in them and all this sort of thing. And, again, Graham Maybe's right up the front, that diddle ding ding boom
Oh,
boom boom.
yes.
Yeah. So whereas and then Gary Sanford's just doing this jing 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 in the background. And it's just I love how the bass and the guitar are inverted on so many of these songs.
Hmm.
And we've got to give a shout out to Dave Horton on drums too. He's
Oh yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Um, absolutely wonderful. But I mean, look, Sunday Paper's not one of my favorite Joe Jackson songs because I think it's just a little bit throwaway, but I still like it a lot. I think it's great. Um, it works in the context of the album. We've had a really serious song to start with One More Time. So we get this more light-hearted song to follow with Sunday Papers.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's got this sort of, to your point, it has a little bit of a reggae rhythm to it, almost like the guitars are so it's sort of like reggae on steroids a little bit. And this band is just the band is so fantastic. I wanted to say that as well. They're so tight. There is the tightness of this band is incredible. And they
Mm.
apparently they hadn't been playing together that long. That's what kind of blows my mind. It's not like they had played together for years and years before they made this record. Um, I mean, they were all just accomplished musicians, and they just were all, for some reason, they fit together very, very, very well. I just think they're all good players. They're all just very good at what they do. So yeah, I
Yeah.
really enjoy Sunday Papers. I think it's kind of cool and really playful. I love when they do the, what is it? Did you hear the one about the dun, 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 dun? And you hear somebody in the back go, "Oh yeah."
Mm.
I just love it. So playful. I love it.
Yeah. And then of course you get the big hit. Is she really going out with him? You know, what a great song. What a
Oh,
great song. You still hear it on the radio to this day. Again, the first line of this song I always loved, sort of pretty women out walking with gorillas down my street.
yes.
Again, this is a more light-hearted song, but it's also again this sort of thing that Joe Jackson did a lot in these early records of this sort of the bitterness of someone who's not in a relationship. He's looking jealously at the people who are, and it's like, that's what this song is all about. Is she really going out with him? It's like,
Mhm.
what's he got that I haven't got, sort of thing,
Yes.
and that's what this song is all about. But melodically, this song is so good. You know, um, this is the first song on the album where we get to hear Joe playing a bit of piano. Obviously, great pianist, but on these early records, he doesn't play a lot of keys,
No.
especially on these first two records. But when he does, it's tasty as always.
Mhm.
And this song was a hit for a reason. It's just such a catchy song. It's such a witty song. It's so well played. It's so well sung. Um, yeah, I mean, it just has everything as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, I agree with you. I think it's extremely hooky. It's very melodic. I mean, the whole that just how can you lose? There's so many things you can think of right off the top of your head on this song. The doom do doom do doom do doom do doom. I mean, just that alone is just such a cool hooky riff just for the verses. And then that whole look over there, where there. I mean, that's very
Mm.
like memorable. And then the melodic chorus when it kicks in, like you said, the piano kicks in, and it goes into that, is she really, I mean, just it's a great single. I mean, it's a fantastic single, actually.
Mm.
I love that song. I still
Yeah,
love it to this day.
absolutely. And the other thing I wanted to point out that you were just talking about there is like that look over there, where there, that's very 60s.
Mhm.
It's got that real 60s feel. And then the other thing is those choruses. You've got Graham Maybe and Dave Houghton on backing vocals as well as playing their instruments.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
really good singers too, and like just complementing Joe's voice so well. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just as I say, it's a brilliant single, and it was a big hit, and I'm not surprised it was a big hit.
No, not surprising at all.
So,
So then happy loving
and then the
couples.
next,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, this again is on that same sort of theme as is she really going out with him, you know. Happy loving couples always, you know, talk so fine until the day that I can do my dancing with a partner. Those happy couples ain't no friends of mine, you know.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
he's looking on sort of jealously at these people in relationships,
Mhm.
um, you know, and just sort of like, you know, why can't I have what they've got? You know, these couples, they make me sick, you know, because I'm not, you know, and who hasn't been there in their younger days, you know? I mean, I
Yes.
know I was, you know, when I was sort of in my when I was at high school, I was the awkward one, and I never had a girlfriend at high school and all that sort of thing. And I'd look at, you know, not so much my friends, because my friends were kind of geeky people like me too. But I'd see other kids around the school, you know, holding hands and all that sort of thing, and I'd be, you know, jealous as and
Yeah.
you know, so yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and again, a really catchy song, with the bass right up front. Um, yeah, it's a really, really good song.
Yeah, another winner as far as I'm concerned. And I do love the themes.
Mm,
I couldn't agree more when I was listening to this, just listen to it briefly just to, refresh my memory for this episode. And you're right, those themes just keep popping up over and over and over again. And again, is she really going out with him? Everyone's had that thought too. You go, wow, she's going out with him? Like, really?
mm,
And then you have
yeah.
the happy loving couples thing where you're like, God, those guys are making me ill with their PDAs and they're making out and they think they're,
Mm,
and you're thinking, I wonder if that'll even last, so because you're sort of jealous or whatever. So it's like these are just universal themes that are he's touching on that I think are just great. Um, and I love the happy loving couples. I mean, that's another very melodic chorus. There's a lot of choruses that just
mm,
stick in your head from this record, and that's one of them. Um, Absolutely another
yeah.
winner. And to me, it ends amazingly with "Throw It Away." I'm just, I mean, what's
Yeah,
your take
yeah.
on
It's a
that?
great way to end side one. It's one of those songs that are a little edgier, a little punkier.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and it's, you know, got that great energy. And again, you know, Joe does some like really high up piano chords that ding 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 ding.
yeah,
Um, you know, um, Gary Sanford's just going away on his guitar, you know, you know,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really, really energetic, and it's a great lyric too, again, you know, sort of throw it away, you know, sort of again, sort of disposability of relationships and that sort of thing. So it's a great way to end side one. It's really, really energetic. And I love it when Joe gets a little punky, and we'll see that a little on the second album too. So,
yes.
yeah, no, it's a great song.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I love when they get really fast and punky and they do it on these first two records and then he really kind of goes away after that. You never really quite get like a throw it away again. I mean,
Mm,
you kind of do like Beat Crazy has like a little bit of that, but not quite. And then it kind of goes away completely. So like you don't really get that punky energy like you do on Throw It Away. I just love that. I love that song. So great way to end the side. And then we start with Baby Stick Around on side two, which is another song I just absolutely love. I don't know. What's your take?
yeah, no, no, it's a good song. Again, it's kind of a short song too. It's like it doesn't outstay its welcome. It's just again, you know, a relationship song, another more up tempo song. So again, the sequencing on this album is really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, starting and ending the album with each side with sort of really up tempo songs. I don't know, Baby Stick Around. maybe I don't like it quite as much as Throw It Away or Got the Time as we're going to get to, or One More Time, as far as the really, really energetic songs. But
Mhm.
it's still a good song.
Yes. I just love the grand maybe they do sort of the breakdowns with the little solos and it's pretty cool. And I love how it goes baby stick a round at the end. I just think it's again they're
Mm.
just so tight and it's just it's and like you said it's very compact. It's like 2:20 or some 2 minutes. It's very fast,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I love the way that you talk about the ending. It goes baby stick up, round, and then it goes straight into Look Sharp, the title track.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yes.
And I love this is one of my favorite songs on the album,
Oh
Look
my
Sharp.
God, Look Sharp
It's
is
just a
incredible. Yeah.
and again, this is a theme that would, sort of come up on these first three albums in particular, is sort of the idea talking about fashion and being fashionable and the latest trends and things like that. So, we'll see that on the second album when we get to that, when we're talking about that, but you see it on Beat Crazy as well. Um, you see it on, like, there was a B-side in the Beat Crazy era too called Out of Style,
Oh, right,
which
right.
yeah, and again, that's sort of in that sort of vein of talking about fashion and, is it out of style this week and all that sort of thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, you know, Look Sharp is just a great title track. And it's a more mid-tempo thing, but again, it's got that slightly, it's not reggae, I think it's more sort of ska influence
Yes,
on this one.
yes,
You know,
yes.
um, and again, you get these wonderful backing vocals from Graham and Dave. With the tell me that this world is no place for the weak, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
I
And that,
love that, they were very much a band, even though they only got credited as the Joe Jackson Band on Beat Crazy, and then much, much later when they did the reunion on Volume 4, they were very much the Joe Jackson Band on both of these albums. And the band were like absolutely vital to these records sounding the way that they do. So,
no, they really were a band. There's no question about it. I couldn't agree more with that statement. It was a band and they were all they all really contributed a lot to these first three records. And I man, I just wanted to comment on the breakdown on Look Sharp. I just that do,
mm,
do. Like you said, there's not much piano, but there's some piano there, and then that it's just like oh, I just that breakdown just kills me every time. I
mm,
love that. So cool. Just love Look Sharp to death. I just think it's so great. I never get tired. I've heard it a million times. I never get sick of it.
yeah.
You know.
And then we get Fools in Love. And the thing that I always found funny, sort of looking back at Joe Jackson's career and looking at the way people wrote about it and all that sort of thing, is people used to call Beat Crazy his reggae album.
Right.
You know,
Right. Right.
there's reggae on this album right from the get-go, and this song is a perfect example of that. It's got
Absolutely.
that absolute skank, the
Yeah. Yes. Very Bob
yeah,
Marley-esque. Yes, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we're into this time he's one of the fools in love, He's
Hmm.
talking about love as if it's a stupid thing to do,
Hmm.
but he admits he's fallen for it as well, you know,
Yeah.
and that cynicism about it, which I think is absolutely great. It's one of those things that made him sort of be considered one of the angry young men of post-punk.
Yes.
And but he doesn't, I love the fact that he doesn't exclude himself from it,
Right. Right.
fools in love, they think they're heroes. I say fools in love are zeros. I should know this because this fool's in love again.
Yes. That's a great lyric.
So
Great lyric. Yes.
yeah,
putting himself in there, it makes it brilliant. Yes. Yeah. I
So
love it. I
yeah,
think it's great.
it's one of the best songs on the album as far as I'm concerned. So
Hmm. No, I really I love it. I think it's great, and it's a great kind of come down after the after Look Sharp. It's a perfect sort of post Look Sharp song. It's like you
mm,
made the comment that this is really well sequenced. I agree. Um, Now we go to Do the Instant Mash, and I this is the one song on this album that doesn't really like I don't get that excited about. I don't know. What's your take on?
yeah, I agree. It's again, I think it's a little throwaway. I think it's meant to be a silly song.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I don't know if it fits the tone of the rest of the album very well.
Mm,
So, there's that too. I mean, I love Gary Sanford's guitar and that that makes it worth hearing for me.
right.
But the lyric is a bit silly, and I mean, the only other thing is there's some really great um harmonica on this song from Joe.
Yes,
He plays
yes.
this great harmonica solo in the middle of it, and that's really cool too. But yeah, it's probably the weakest song on the album for me. So,
Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel too. It's like the for me that's the weakest tune. Um and then Pretty Girls actually is interesting because he speaking of throwaway lyrics or sort of silly lyrics, it's basically about like look at the pretty girls walking down the street and look eyes right, eyes left. And I read a quote that he said something about when he was talking about this album much later. He said like that song's a little bit embarrassing because he's just like it's just about ogling beautiful women. He's like it's just kind of lame.
mm,
That's what he said because that's the only song I'm a little bit embarrassed about. But I think it's still a pretty like you said something about the 50s, when that down doo
mm,
wop doo doo wop doo doo wop bound dude. It's very 60s, like mid 60s or
mm,
late 50s or something, that's kind of that kind of gives me a feel of that. I don't know. What do you
yeah.
think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, it's probably not one of the strongest songs on the album, so I'd agree lyrically with what Joe was saying that it's a bit throwaway, but musically it's really great. It's got this bounce to it, which I really love. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of the same feel that Look Sharp does. You know,
Right. Right.
um, and I like that about it. I like it better than Instant Mash, but
Hmm.
these two songs probably the one area of this album where it does get a little, not perfect, but boy
Hmm.
does it end well,
Oh
this
man.
album.
Oh man. Talk about fast punky craziness. That got
Mm,
the time. Oh my God.
wow. I mean, look, when you've written something pretty, punky and hardcore and heavy when your song gets covered by Anthrax,
Yes.
you know, because
Exactly.
Anthrax did a cover of this, and apparently though Joe wasn't. He was a little nonplussed with their cover. He was like, somebody asked him about the Anthrax cover, and he said, "Oh, we used to play that song faster when we were live. When we were playing live." So,
Hmm.
um,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I've seen some live performances of it, and they're absolutely just like a million miles a minute. So,
Yes.
I mean, yeah, this is one I can't sing along to in the car because I just trip over my own tongue when I'm trying to. Got
Yes.
time tick tick ticking
Yes.
in my head. You know,
Right.
um, but it's just such a great, energetic song, and I love the lyric as well. Just the idea of life
Time's
going
always
too
going.
fast, and
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, you just never have enough time to get everything done, and all this sort of thing.
Hmm.
So it's just the perfect album closer. It's just absolutely brilliant. It might be, and this is a big call, it might be the best last song on any Joe Jackson album.
That could be. I mean, it could be. I love. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say at all. I love it. I think it's so. It's just I saw a video of it. I wanted to comment. I did watch something on YouTube, and he wasn't kidding. They do play it faster live, and it's like, how do these guys? It's already fast. They're playing it faster live, and it's tight. I mean, it's tight. And I don't know how. And to your what you were saying about singing, I mean, he trips over his own words when he's singing it live because they're playing it so fast. It's like wake up.
Mm,
It's like can't get out. Telephone. Whoa, no, paper. It's like he barely get the words out. But I just love that no such thing as tomorrow. Only one, two, three, go time. I mean, it's just such a
mm.
cool track. It's just amazing track. I mean, if you've never heard this song, you gotta hear it like tomorrow, today. Like it's like
Yeah,
amazing. It's unbelievable.
absolutely.
Yeah. So incredible.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
just a terrific debut album. And the fact that the second album came out the same year, that just doesn't happen anymore, does it? Where,
No,
like,
no.
I mean, these days, there's 3, 4 years between albums, sometimes more, um, because bands just tour and tour and tour. But,
Right.
back in the late 70s, they were still, often doing an album a year, and sometimes, as in this case, cranking out 2 albums in a year.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the thing that kind of blew my mind when I was looking at this. I was like, wow, these were both in that 79. I mean, granted it was recorded in 78, Look Sharp, but still, I mean, the fact that they toured behind Look Sharp and then I mean,
Mm,
I'm sure A&M was like, okay, we got a hit because you got, Look Sharp was a hit. So they're like, okay, we got a hot artist, like get right back in the studio and let's crank on another album, you know?
mm,
That like you said, that used to be pretty common back in the day. That wasn't anything crazy, you
yeah.
know? So yeah, let's do I'm the Man. So I'm the Man was recorded in March 79. So really, Look Sharp was released in January of 79, and this was recorded in March of 79. Released October 5th of 79. Uh, it was recorded at TW Studios in London, again produced by David Kirschenbaum and on A&M again. This time only two singles, I'm the Man and It's Different for Girls. So only two singles from
Yeah,
this. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And, sometimes a lot of these, I don't know how many of these songs he already had in his pocket when he was sort of, that were, left over from the first album or that sort of thing. Because you get that a lot with second albums. It's often, songs that he already had, um, or that the band already had.
yeah,
But I can tell you what, that first song on this album, On Your Radio, that's definitely written after the first album came out because it's very much a reaction
hmm,
to the success of the first album. It's a bit
yes.
of a boasting song, It's like, hey, you didn't think I was going to be so great, but you want to be in touch with me now? Go and hear me on the radio, you know,
Classic.
because
That's a classic.
that's where I'll be. You know,
Yeah.
it's a real sort of kiss off song, to his critics and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
And I absolutely love On Your Radio, and it starts off, with that just a chink 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 chink, and then some wailing harmonica from Joe.
Yeah.
Um, it's just, yeah, it's a great way to start the album, and the lyric is just so sort of screw you kind of thing, and I
Yeah.
love that about it.
Oh, I think it's amazing. It's a great kiss off track. It's because it's, I mean, what better thing than to say that, hey, the only way you're going to ever hear me is on your radio. I mean, that's just fantastic. Like you put me down back then, and now the only way you're going to ever hear me is on the radio. So I think that's just a great way to say it, and uh, yeah, great kickoff track. I mean, I love this first track, and this song often stays in my head, would long after I've heard the album, I hear on the radio, yeah, you're gonna hear me on your radio. I mean, it's such a catchy track. You always you hear it in your head
Hmm,
after you listen to it.
absolutely. And I love the fact that this was one of the songs that he would play, on later tours as well. There's a particularly good version out there, if you can find the video, from the Night and Day tour,
Oh, okay.
where
All
they
right.
do On Your Radio. And it's a really, really good version with a completely different band except for Graham Maybe.
Yep.
Um, the Night and Day tour was interesting because there was no guitar.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it made it different. But, On Your Radio was obviously a song he was proud of because he kept playing it on later tours.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And then it kind of switches gears kind of quickly with Geraldine and John. What's your take on that
Yeah.
track?
Well, we're back into a very heavy sort of reggae groove here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and the lyric is an interesting one because it's a song about a relationship, but it's about two people having an extramarital affair with each other,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and and how that can be, a bit of a problem for both those people and obviously their families and things like that.
Hmm.
I always loved the lyric, Geraldine and John see the happy couple so inseparable, and the beat goes on, and for better or for worse, they are married, but of course, not to each other.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and you get
Yes.
the bit, Geraldine ends up leaving her husband and moving back in with her mom, and whereas John is still sort of at home and, trying to have his cake and eat it too, and that sort of thing. But then Geraldine's brother, clocks him one, see the
Yeah.
scar on his face from the time he met her brother.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, it's not a sort of lyric. It's not the sort of relationship lyric you hear much. So it's an interesting take on sort of an extramarital affair and how it works. And musically, I mean, Joe Jackson's playing this absolute beautiful melodica on this. This is the
Yes. The
album where he really
melodica.
starts
Yes.
playing melodica.
Yep.
You know, and I love how he plays that on this song. Um, and again, Graham may be so good on the bass. The ding 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 ding.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and Gary's just sort of again skanking in the background, just jink it, jink it, jink it. You know,
Yes. Yep.
and Dave Houghton on the drums. Just absolutely some of his best playing, I reckon.
Oh
The
yeah.
drums on this song.
Yeah.
You know, you know,
Yeah.
just yeah. No, this song is a triumph. It's one of my favorite songs on the album.
And I love that it's a story song. As you pointed out, it's such a great story song. And because I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, what's happening here? Oh, it's an affair. Okay. Like it takes you a minute to kind of get what's happening. And then, once you click in, you go, oh, okay, what a great idea for a song.
Mm.
I just think it's great. And musically, to your point, I think it's fantastic. So yeah, so two winners right out of the gate. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then kind of cute for me is like okay. I don't know what's your take on that song?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's one of the two songs. If you look at the sort of the inner sleeve, there's lyrics on the inner sleeve, and it's one of two songs that he labels a pop song. So,
Okay,
he's
yeah,
obviously kind of hinting at the fact that this is meant to be a bit of a lighter sort of thing and that sort of thing. Yeah. If you look at the lyrics, it's on that lyric side. Yeah, it says like kind of cute, a pop song.
oh yes, there it is. Yep,
So,
yep, there it is.
yeah.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I, I don't think it's a song that he had particularly high ambitions for. It was meant to be a bit of a palate cleanser, I think, after,
Yeah.
you know, sort of the vindictiveness of the first song and then the kind of dark lyric of the second song, with this affair going on and all that sort of thing. I think he wanted something a little lighter. It's probably not one of my favorite songs on the album, but I still like it quite a bit. Um, it's got this again very 60s feel with the boom, 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 you know.
Yes.
So I like that about it. Um, you know, if I compared this, say, to the sort of less ambitious songs on Look Sharp, like Instant Mash or Pretty Girls, I probably like this one a little better. So
There you go. Yeah.
uh, it's still not, it's not one of the best songs on the album, but I don't think, it was meant to be a more ambitious song. That's why he sort of subtitled it a pop song.
Yeah,
So
I like the idea of him just having fun and having a palate cleanser. I like that idea of that. I think you might be onto something there with the two really heavy songs first, and then oh, here's a little light pop song for you. Um, so I could see that. Um, and I do, maybe he was kind of thinking, oh, maybe this could be the single or something. Who knows? I don't know. But and it does have
hmm,
a very, you're right, it does have a very 60s kind of mid 60s feel to it. Um, but it goes on to It's Different for Girls, which was a single and was a successful single, which and he
yeah.
apparently he was surprised that this was a successful single. But I do love this song. This is one of those songs, the more
Hmm.
you listen to it, the more you like it. I'm not quite sure why, but what's your take on It's Different for Girls?
It's it's definitely got a subtlety to it that I think uh, rewards repeated listens.
Hmm.
And yeah, this was actually his biggest ever hit in the UK.
Yeah,
This was his
yeah,
highest charting single in the UK.
right.
So, um, and it's a song again that he's inordinately proud of because he still plays it live. So,
Yes.
um, and again, it's sort of a conversation song between a man and a woman, you know.
Hmm.
Joe sings both parts, but I've seen concert versions where he will have a female singer sing one part
Oh,
of the song.
interesting. Okay.
So yeah, he'll get the female singer to sing the she said parts,
Hmm.
and yeah, it gives it another angle when he does that. But it's a beautiful song. Musically it's quite gentle. It's got this beautiful chiming guitar that's just these two notes, these ding 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 ding
Yes, it's
ding
so
ding ding.
simple on the guitar. Yes.
Yeah. And Graham Maybe's bass is pretty simple too. It's just going boom, 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 boom,
Right.
boom, boom,
Right.
boom, you know,
Yes.
and then Joe doing it's something he would do a lot more as his career went on. But this is the verses, he's sounding vulnerable. He's
Yeah.
singing in a much uh, not so aggressively. He's singing much more melodically and quietly, and then bursting into you know the more aggressive vocal in the sort of pre-chorus,
Right.
where he
Right.
goes, the she said, "How can you be?" You know,
Yeah.
um, um, and I love the idea that it's different for girls. And it's kind of playing on stereotypes and subverting them, you know,
Yeah.
like and that sort of thing. And I like that about it. But it also has, that sort of thing, with women sort of thinking that men are all the same and that sort of thing. So,
Yes. Yeah. That you're
um,
all the same. Yeah. I love that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that beautiful part where they're doing that, the "you're all the same" repeating. And
Mhm.
like Joe sings it, and then Graham sings it, and then Dave sings it, and then Joe, Graham, Dave,
Yes.
and they just go
Yes.
around and around like that. It's so effective. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
It really pulls you in this sort of subtle way. I don't know how to describe it, but it
Mm,
pulls you in. It's got this cool vibe to it, and it pulls you right in. And it kind of it feels like the first time on these first two records where you kind of feel like maybe a little hint of the future coming. Like, I like you kind of
mm,
feel like, oh, this almost could be like a night and day song or something. It's the first time where you think, oh, maybe there's going to be something different coming down the road. I don't know,
yeah.
you know. Um,
then you talk about the side closers. We get the title track, and I have been known to say I first heard this on the very best of Joe Jackson, the Steppin' Out album that
okay.
came out just as he left A&M
Hmm.
to go to Virgin. They put out a best of that
Hmm.
covered everything up to and including Blaze of Glory.
Right.
And that
Right.
was the first time I heard the title track, I'm the Man. And I was like, wow, he's so punk on this song.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
the guitar, it's a dinga, 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 dinga,
So aggressive.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I love it. And then the lyric is quite, silly in some ways. It's kind of this, Madison Avenue advertising guy.
A
Sort of
huckster,
like he
something. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, almost, yeah. That's the other thing is like I'm thinking American there with sort of Madison Avenue advertisements and that sort of thing. But it's also very much that very UK. There was a show called Minder, and one of the main characters was like this guy called Arthur Daly, and he was like what they would call a spiv, and he was very much this sort of guy. He was like the guy with all the watches in his jacket and that sort of
Right.
thing, and
Yes.
it's like, oh, I've got a bridge to sell you sort of thing and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And that's what the lyric is all about. It's all, this kind of guy who can sell you anything. He
Yep.
even says that in the song, I can
Yep.
sell you anything from a thin safety pin to a pork pie hat.
Yep.
And you know, and it's just what an incredible energy this song has. It's just there was a couple of, we talked about some of the punkier songs on the first album, One More Time and Got the Time and Throw It Away. But I think this is the most raw of the lot musically.
Yeah. 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 I love just when he goes through, kung fu and skateboards and he's just going through all these different things that was, what does he say? That was one of my good ones, or he's just going through all these things that he's basically junk that I've sold you in
Yeah,
the past.
yeah. Kung Fu, that was one of my good ones. What's a few broken bones when we all know it's good, clean fun?
Yes, yes, yes. And there's a little bit of a guitar solo in this song, a little bit, right? Uh,
Yeah,
during that breakdown part. I mean, I don't know if it's a real solo. Again, it's probably like more like chords playing, um, but it's
yeah.
still kind of a guitar feature, I guess you could say. Uh,
Mm,
but
yeah.
you're right. This song is really punky. I mean, this is one of the. I mean, this matches anything on Look Sharp as far as the raw energy punkiness of it. But my band
Yeah.
played, we covered this song and it was hard. It took us a long time to get this song.
Mm,
it was a challenge.
I'll bet.
Yeah. It was fun, but it was a challenge.
Yeah. Then he
Um,
gets kind of autobiographical starting outside too with the band wore blue shirts,
yes, a true
you know?
story as he puts in the, yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
And I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily know that Joe Jackson, played in these sort of bands, cabaret bands
Hmm.
and that sort of thing. I think he was playing like at the Playboy Club in Portsmouth, which was his hometown,
Right.
and things like that, playing this sort of, light jazz and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And, this song is kind of talking about that. Obviously we would find out about that in a couple of albums' time when he would do Joe Jackson's Jump and Jive, which
Right.
is, sort of getting, doing all those covers of those sort of 40s songs,
Hmm.
jump blues and swing songs and all that sort of thing.
It's a Jack you did.
But
Right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah. That kind of
but
stuff.
yeah, I like this song. It's got a great feel. It's interesting that he's starting side two with a song that's not a rave up because
Right. Right.
he
Yes.
started side one and side two of Look Sharp with rave ups. He starts side one of this album with a rave up. He ends side one with the rave up.
Hmm.
but side two, he starts it off with this more sort of, you know, it's got a really great groove, this song, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And again, some absolutely gorgeous melodica playing on it. And yeah, and I love the sort of lyric, you know, just talking about his old days, even though, you know, he was only in his mid-20s when he made this album.
Right.
And he's
Right.
still, you know, reminiscing about the old
The
days
old
and that sort
days.
of
Yeah.
thing. But
Right.
the old days from like 5 years ago. But um but yeah, no, it's a really good song, and it's a different lyric again, you know, again a story song. It's and I love the sort of reminiscences that he goes through, you know.
Hmm.
Me and the bass guitarist even shined our shoes. The drummer's shoes are dirty to confuse.
Yep. 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 And doesn't he say something about like the kids might ask me about the old days, but they might be kind of disappointed
Yes.
or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
someday my kids will ask me about the old days. You know, they'll tell them there ain't much to tell. You know, the waiters wore black dinner jackets and all that kind of thing, and the band wore blue shirts and the music played on.
Yes, yes, yes. And this is another one of those sort of sinuous songs where you just kind of it's sort of the more you listen, the more it really sinks in. Like
Mm,
I remember the first time hearing this, I thought it was, like you said, it wasn't like this punch in the face. It was sort of a mid-tempo-ish, kind of, but it's still very well written and well done. And the more you hear it, the more you go, oh yeah, this is a cool track. I like this song. Yeah, it's one of those,
mm,
you know.
yeah,
Um, so. But then it goes into sort of more of a like of kind of a rave up. Well, I don't want to be like that, which is kind of the sort of
yeah,
fast song, which I think is
yeah.
really good. What do you think of this one?
Absolutely. It's really effective coming after band wore blue shirts too, you know,
Mhm.
to go into a more of a rave up song. Um, and again, it's got that kind of punky energy, but it's also got that kind of 60s feel to it as well. You know, because it's got the drums doing that beat, that sort of ding 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 ding, you know,
Yes,
which I always associate as being a very 60s drum beat.
yes, yeah,
You'd know better, you're the musician, but
yeah.
I always think of that as a very 60s kind of thing.
Totally
But
agree. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, not necessarily one of his most substantive lyrics, but it's still a good song. And as I say, coming after Band Wore Blue Shirts, I think musically it's really great. And it whoa, 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 you know.
it's another
Um,
60s kind of thing, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think
So
it's very
and
catchy. It's extremely catchy song, and like you said, I think it's a perfect uh, follow-up to Band Wore Blue Shirts, and it really brings it back up into the sort of rock and then Amateur Hours is kind of a different one too. The side two is kind of a different feel. What do you think of
mm,
Amateur Hour?
Amateur Hour, it kind of harks back a little to It's Different for Girls for me, like musically,
Yeah,
you know, and because it's more of a ballad. Um, it's got a definite feel, you know, and again, beautiful bass playing from Graham Maybe, that ding 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 ding,
yes, yes,
you
I
know,
love that. Yes,
yeah, it's
yes,
absolutely gorgeous. And again, it's a, you know, a troubled relationship song.
hmm,
And you can hear the kind of strain in his voice as he sings it, you know, as if I think some of these sort of, you know, troubles in the relationship might be, you know, coming from personal experience,
yeah,
because there definitely seems to be in his vocal delivery a bit of a catch in the throat, as it were. Um,
yeah, yeah,
which, yeah, you know, so, and just the idea that, you know, amateur hour is over, we've got to get serious about this sort of thing, you
yeah,
know. And yeah, no, it's a beautiful song. It's like there's nothing like it on the first album. And again, you know, you could say that it's a bit of a foreshadow of things to come. Not so much on Beat Crazy. Beat Crazy is an album unto itself, and I'd love
yeah,
to do a show on it one of these days.
yeah.
But Yeah, and I'd love to ask Joe Jackson about Beat Crazy too, because it kind of didn't do well after these first two.
No.
Um, but yeah, no, Amateur Hour's a really, really good song. So
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that it's sort of a breadcrumb to the future, this song. It kind of feels there's little breadcrumb all over this record for the where he's gonna go in the future. And this Amateur Hour has that feel to it. And it's got that sort of, like you said, that sort of melancholy, that do 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 do, that's very melancholy. Like it has this sort of feel
mm,
that's like sort of, and it really gets you. So I like Amateur Hour quite a bit. It's very different, and like you already said, it's there's nothing like it on Look Sharp. So it definitely feels like a little bit of progressing going, whether you will call it progressing or not, but it's just sort of a different feel from what he done before.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but then we go back to then we get that girl, which is another pop song. He puts it in parentheses again, a pop
Yeah,
song. We're gonna
yeah,
get
but this
that
one's
girl.
more in the
We're gonna get, yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's more energetic than kind of cute.
right.
It's definitely good. It's got the
Yes, yes,
and
yeah,
this is the idea that he's going to steal someone else's girl, because he thinks she's more suited to him than she is to her boyfriend.
right,
And he
right.
keeps making these comparisons. He sits there drinking gin and she sits there drinking beer like me,
Yes,
you know.
yes, exactly right, right. Yeah,
So, that he's drinking his, arty farty gin and we're, drinking beer like, working class people.
right,
And
right. Yeah,
so yeah. Um Again, it's not the most substantive lyric on the album, but I still like it's got a wittiness to it that I think I rather like. And it's got an energy to it that I think, even though it's again not one of the more substantive songs on the album, I think it gets over on its just sheer energy. So I think it's another really good song.
yeah. I love how he kind of phrases the whole "soon if I'm lucky gonna get that girl." It's just like
Yeah.
it's such a cool. I like it much better than kind of cute. I think it's a cool, very energetic track. And it's definitely a pop track, but it's very like you said, it's very energetic and it's got a lot of attack to it, which I really like.
Mm,
Uh, and then Friday also has a lot of attack. I mean, this is also kind of a pretty way
yeah.
upbeat way to end the album. So yeah, what's your take on Friday?
Absolutely. It's another sort of rave up song. It's, I mean, one of the most relatable lyrics on the album because it's about, working people and, knocking off on Friday and the weekend's coming and all that sort of thing. You
Mhm.
know, um, it's a really good song, but it also dynamics. There's real great dynamics in this song because the verses will be a little more quiet, especially like I think it's the third verse. It really takes it down, you
Yes,
know,
yes.
um, and then builds it back up, and you know,
Mhm.
and you get those sort of gang vocals. It's like, what are we waiting for? Friday,
Yes, Friday.
so.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Um,
They're having fun on this one.
So yeah, I don't think it's as good a closer as Got the Time, but then again, as I said, I don't think there is a better closer on a Joe
No.
Jackson album than Got the Time. But it's still a great album closer.
And doesn't he say like something
Um,
like it's not Wednesday, it's not Thursday, it's not the during
yes.
that thing, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, ain't talking about Monday, ain't talking about Tuesday, ain't talking
Yes.
about Wednesday, ain't talking about Thursday. I'm talking about boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
Do-do-do-do-do-do. That's just such a, again, Grand Baby just killing on that song,
Mm,
as he is every song, pretty
yeah.
much. So there you go. There's I'm
No,
the
two
Man.
and
Yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
go
I
ahead.
mean, often when bands are sort of asked by the record company to go back into the studio straight away and crank out another album, that album is usually a pale imitation of the first one. I don't
Yes.
think you can say that about this album at all.
Not at all. No, this is fantastic considering how quickly it came out.
Mm,
Because you're absolutely correct that most of the time you're not going to get the quality of this album on a second record that came out that quickly.
yeah.
And I agree. I had the same thought, Bicycle Legs. I had the same thought that oh, like how many of these songs were in his pocket when they went in. I'm curious to know, I'd
Mm,
love to know how many songs were written new and how many were still kind of in the set list from before from Look Sharp, you know. Be
yeah,
curious to know. So uh,
absolutely.
so anyway, so yeah, there's Look Sharp, there's I'm the Man, sorry. And wow, what a great second record. I mean, these are really a blast. These first two records are a blast from the Joe Jackson band that you quite never quite get again. I mean, they do a reunion much
Mm,
later, Volume 4. They do Beat Crazy, like you said, I have the same thought that Beat Crazy is kind of a different animal. It's
mm,
sort of like they wanted to do something. We'll talk about this some other episode, but it seemed like they wanted to do something different on Beat Crazy, but they weren't quite sure what they wanted to
mm,
do. I'm not sure if that's, but we can talk about that more in another episode. But these first
yeah.
two records to me are like a big blast from the band. I mean, they never the I treasure these albums because it's the Joe Jackson band at their tightest and their strongest. These first two records.
Now I know what you're going to ask me. Which one
Yes. So you know what's
do I
coming.
choose?
Yes, you know what's coming.
Yeah. Now, I actually deliberately, before we started recording, I had not made up my mind. And that was a deliberate choice. I wanted to talk through these songs one more time with you. And as we were talking about them, I kind of made up my mind.
Okay.
And it's by a whisker. I'm the man.
Yeah.
I just think there's, and the main reason is I think there's one song on here that I don't think quite holds up to the rest of the album. Whereas on this one, there might be two. So,
Yes.
but, and I also like the fact that on I'm the Man, he's starting to branch out a little bit. As much as I love just the raw energy of Look Sharp,
Hmm.
I like on I'm the Man that he's starting to, because I'm a huge Joe Jackson fan in that I love the fact that throughout his career, he's done almost everything. You
Hmm.
know, he's done jazz, he's done progressive rock, he's done classical music, he's done, you know, electronic music. He's done so many different things throughout his career. And I think that I'm the Man is where he's starting to show you a little bit of where he's going to go on future albums and on a couple of them too, because I think definitely, it's different for girls and Amateur Hour are pointing to a couple of albums that we're going to talk about on a different show,
Right.
in Night and Day and Body and Soul. But also the band wore blue shirts, I think, is definitely a little pointer to Joe Jackson's Jump and Jive, at least, thematically, if not musically, you know. So I like that about it. So yeah, just I adore both of these albums, but by a whisker, I'm going to give it to I'm the Man.
Okay. I am also going to do Bio Whisker, but I'm going the other way. I'm going to go with Look Sharp. Um, and it's a difficult decision, as you mentioned. It's very, very, very tough because these are both excellent records. And but this one just has that, I don't know how to describe it. It's my, well, first of all, it's my first love. I mean, this was the first album that I really got
Mm,
into by him. So it's sentimental as well as personal and sentimental because I just love, I got into this album so heavily and it made me a Joe Jackson fan, and I went and stayed with him for years and just bought records and records after just hearing this. Um,
yeah.
and the highs for me on this record are just, there are some songs we mentioned, Instant Mash and Pretty Girls are kind of okay, but man, oof, One More Time, Is She Really Going Out with Him, Throw It Away, Baby Stick Around, Look Sharp. I mean, these songs are just, in my view, are just fantastic. And it's so energetic and so tight and so pop, punk, rock. I mean, and it just everything. It's like a stew, and there's a little bit of reggae in there, and it's just I don't know. I'm trying to get it not to have them. Oh, there we go. It's impossible. But anyway, um, I'm gonna go with Look Sharp. That's not saying anything negative about I'm the Man because you're. I'm not going to fault you at all for picking this because like we talked through it, there's lots of signs to the future in here, and it's really interesting to hear things like Amateur Hour and Different for Girls and things that are different from what Look Sharp was. And there's still a lot of Look Sharp in here. There's still a lot of like Look Sharp-esque songs in here. So I love both of these records. I think you cannot go wrong with either of these albums. So that's
Yeah,
why I do these
absolutely.
battles because it's just so hard to pick, right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times it comes back to personal. It's just like, well, I've listened to this one more, or this one's my first love, it's usually personal reasons.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, but I would think you would agree with me that you cannot go wrong with either.
Absolutely. No, they're both fine, fine albums.
Fantastic, both of them. And I will, since you mentioned it, I'll mention it again that yes, we are going to do our next Joe Jackson episode is going to be Night and Day versus Body and Soul. We're going to do that on Bicycle Legs channel. So, um,
Yep.
so so a little teaser for you. That's coming in the future, and I can't wait to do that one because that one's going to be another really good
Mhm.
battle. So that's going to be good. So, Bicycle Legs, thank you so much for coming on the channel. It's always a pleasure having you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's a blast. I mean, you always do such a great job, and you know your stuff. And if you don't know his channel, you need to go check out Bicycle Legs channel. And it's you have to remind it's Bicycle Legs music. What is it again?
Bicycle Legs Talks Music.
Talks music. Talks music. I was going to say loves music. Talks music. So I will put a link to his channel below and make sure to go to his channel and check it out. He does lots of great stuff. There's so many different things so many bands that he touches on, and so many different ideas that he has as far as there's so many different themes that he touches on as far as he'll do anniversary shows. He does in defense of. He'll do just regular record reviews. He'll do rankings. So it's anything you want. It's there. So check it out. Um, and as always, hit the like button, hit subscribe. It really helps the channel. And we will see you next time on Curless Mania. Bye.